will come to you very quickly. Sorry, we can't quite hear. Can you hold it close to your mouth, please? I suppose that's yeah.
My name's Alison Carney, I'm at Sampson's. I would like to ask you, please, how would you ensure that children with complex needs and special educational needs receive an education not only appropriate to their needs and abilities, but which optimises their learning opportunities and life chances?
Thank you very much. The first person to answer that question.
I know some parents with special education needs children, and they're vastly different disabilities. Some are extremely happy with the requirements being met in Lemurier, and others believe that their children should be in mainstream school. To achieve that, we need to listen to people like Catherine, where that's her area of expertise. And beyond school, we need to look at the disability legislation and get more people signed up to the Disability Charter. It's not something to be scared of. I've been signed up to it for a couple of years, but a lot of employers believe that they're going to be forced to employ someone that isn't capable of the role, but that's not the case. But yeah, it's basically listening to the parents and listening to people like Catherine and her lobby groups, and we go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Collins.
Thank you, Alison, for the question. Not to sort of...
The microphone will come. I think we're learning that these microphones, you need to hold them, both candidates and questioners, quite close to your mouth. Please give your name and parish.
I was here last night and I asked this question.
So your name and parish?
Oh, sorry, Tom Morse and Peter Morse. I asked this question last night and I got very woody answers to begin with until there was more credible answer that everybody parroted it. So I'll ask it again in the hope that... COVID's going to be a very hard challenge for the purse of the states, and after COVID, which we've got a few years yet, it's going to be even harder, not least because the finance industry is going to face major challenges, whether it be from the Singapore attempts that the Tories want, or the Labour government's wanting to...
Can I encourage you to come to the question?
Yes, of course. So what would each of you do to balance the books if the finance industry goes, whether it be bringing new industry in, increasing or bringing in new taxes, or cutting public services? If you could stay through, that would be great.
Thank you very much indeed. First person to answer.
With my small business head on, I think that we need to not just concentrate on inviting entrepreneurs here, but we need to let the small business owners here invest in themselves, relax restrictions on what they can do planning wise. I know one small business that manufactures a Guernsey product here, and they need a little warehouse on the next built next to the processing plant. And they're not being allowed to do that, and they're being advised to go and look at old LVCR warehouses, which is just unachievable. Other ideas are with the deep water berth, or with a deep water berth, we could investigate creating Guernsey becoming a departure port for people going on a cruise to try and fill the planes for people coming over here for a couple of nights. It's going to be little creative ideas like that I personally, myself, that I think that will help.
Mr. Collins?
Thank you for the question.
Sir, and then come to the front. Please.
Good evening, candidates. Zoe Lee from the parish of St Peter's Port. My question is, I appreciate some of you are possibly returning deputies and some are new. What is your biggest fear and why, if you do get selected and you end up in the Assembly?
Thank you very much indeed.
Whether I get in or not, my biggest fear would be lack of progress, and something like education being another election issue in 2024. Stuff needs to happen and happen fast so we can then concentrate on recovering the economy. Okay.
Gary Collins?
Good evening. Richard McDermott from St Peter's. A lot of the candidates have put in their manifesto that there is a need for fibre broadband for all. I have three elements to my question. What do candidates understand as the primary challenge to achieving this, especially compared with other jurisdictions? who therefore will fund this example of a capital investment, which is going to be vying for funds with other things, and how long do they think it's going to take to get to all? So challenge, funding, and timescale.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a small insight into this area. I was an underground cable jointer and overhead linesman for Guernsey Electric for 9 years. I'm also a fully qualified fibre optic jointer. It would take years to do it properly. People would have to be prepared for a lot of road closures, especially while the schools are being done. It would be mayhem on our roads, but if it's what we need, it's what we need. Jersey had it slightly easier, although it costs the taxpayer a lot of money because they own JT. The states don't own any telecoms companies, so it's who are we gonna give a lot of money to a private business? These are all challenges, and I'm sorry, but I don't have the answer to those.
Gary Collins.
Thanks for the question. Sounds like Ross, you're the kind of man we almost need to do it. To be honest, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's a huge challenge. I mean, considering also is the Channel Island regulator, is unfortunately falling apart. So again, who's going to actually beat these guys with the stick to get this done? How long? Again, it needs to be done sooner, but I've got a feeling it's going to take at least 5 to 10 years to get across the island. And again, where
followed by one over there.
My name is Richard Perkins from St Peters. I've got a couple of questions relating to the current social security system. First of all, self-employed people seem to be unfairly discriminated against because they have to pay the equivalent of the employer's rate and the employee's rate. A normal employee will only get 6%, they end up paying nearer 12%. At the other end of the scale, we've got the high earners who've got a cap on their social security. I think it's around about £140,000 at the moment. After that, they pay nothing. So the more you earn, the less in percentage terms you pay on your salary. I don't think that's fair. What does the panel think of these two issues on social security?
Thank you very much.
The problem we have is some of our deputies don't even understand it themselves. One of them in a recent debate stated that self-employed get a good deal because their total social security contribution is slightly less than what they get from an employee. But they forget that it's people like me that are paying one half of the employee's social security contribution as well. Regarding the cap, yeah, it is unfair, but the argument would be, what do those people that earn that kind of money put into our economy? So whether or not that could be changed, I don't know. What else I can add to that? We've got people that come here to work, what people know as white van man. They're supposed to sign a certificate of continuing liability when they leave the UK to work here to continue paying their social security in England. There's nothing in place that registers them here to make sure that because if they don't have that, they're supposed to be paying it here, and there's nothing in place to make sure that they are.
Thank you. Gary Collins.
Yeah, I do think it does need to be reviewed. I think those that are self-employed that I certainly know see.
Thank you. My name's Rob. I live in St Martin's. So, runway. Should we extend the runway? Yes, no, and why? The other thing I'd be interested in is we've had a report commissioned by a group of independent consultants that have found that there's a net benefit in the hundreds of millions. If your answer is no, what is it about that report that you disagree with?
Thank you very much. The first across the front.
I wouldn't be totally against the runway, but it's like the last thing on our minds at the moment with what's going on in the world. Lots of aviation businesses are on their knees, basically. I think we need to concentrate on having something on offer here to actually get people on planes before we extend the runway. It'd be like Oatlands making their car park bigger, but not actually adding any more attractions to their site. It's just creating a runway isn't going to bring people here. We need a reason for people to come here first.
Gary Collins.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Then there, and at the back.
Governor Steve Stephen Street, retired GP, been over 40 years now, and I'm very keen on fishing and fishery.
And your parish?
I'm in Tortable. So I've got a boat down in the pool. Anyway, so my question is, I've watched sea fisheries with the leopardess, and every state, it seems to be the sea fisheries gets less money to maintain what is quite an important environment. Remember, with the 12-mile limit, we've got 800 square miles of sea, and with this Brexit going on, I know that a certain deputy's been looking up and down, but I don't know anything more that's been happening. But my impression is that with the lack of the finance that's been going into sea fisheries and looking at what's in Guernsey, is that, and I've also seen that there's fewer and fewer anglers that come like to Alderney or Guernsey. They used to come over regularly, but there's fewer and fewer.
Thank you very much. The first person to answer this question is Ross LeBrun.
What was the actual question?
About sea fisheries and the investment in sea fisheries and supporting fishing.
Right, it's almost like you've been planted in the audience, because in the last one I got this almost exact question. I had to pass it on, but I'll have a bash. There's
nothing fishy about this.
Yeah, there's a group of anglers I know that are looking to try and make something out of a tuna fishery here, and I think it's something worth exploring. It's something that could invite people to the island, and there's a thing going on in Ireland where they're actually making an industry out of tuna fishing, but it's catch and release, so it's responsible, and it's also doing research. They're tagging the fish, so it's part of the environment. So I think that because years ago Guernsey used to be a big thing, angling tourism used to be a big thing in the Channel Islands, and it's just died out. But that could be something that is a good thing for the economy to investigate a tuna fishery.
Thank you. Gary Collins.
Thanks very much. I mean, first
Hello, Martin Harris from City Report. I'm interested in the panel's views on the current plans for the seafront enhancement scheme, which I would include on the whole eastern seaboard aspect. And secondly, I'm interested in your views on how it has been processed and maybe some might view pushed so far.
Thank you very much. Gary Collins. Right.
I agree with Catherine that whatever happens has to be sympathetic. I think we've all seen the plans for what's going to happen at the bathing pools. That looks like Dr. Evil's lair. It's not really just looks like a bunker. It should look more like what the market building looks like, something more in keeping with the area. Well, the market is a prime example of what happens when you let a private developer have it. Just people lose interest in it. But and again, the tourist information centre, the idea of turning that into a boutique hotel, it's like the people haven't walked through there on a Saturday night. It's like Jeremy Kyle outside there. But we need things that are sympathetic. I really like the art gallery idea, because that's something that will invite people here. I do agree that things need to be put there to make better use of it rather than just parking. But it's finding ways that make it look like old St. Peter Port.
Thank you very much indeed. Question 9, the gentleman I think at the very back over there.
In a short time period on that.
Thank you. The first person to answer this question.
I'm not really going to be able to add anything more than current standing deputies have been able to tell you, but talking as a voter myself, I think what could make the biggest impact is engaging with the public more on decisions and how decisions are made, more face-to-face things rather than just online, just online questionnaires and things like that. We need the public to go with decisions and to understand decisions.
Thank you. And Gary Collins.
Yeah.
Capital projects in the policy letter, which is accompanied by a budget calculated by a chief officer.
Is that the right way to trade and deal with contractors?
Thank you. Thank you. Ross LeBron?
It's probably good practice.
I was shocked by that.
Shall I start again? It's probably good practice that the states have got someone that can give them an idea of what they need to spend, but I'm presuming they're under non-disclosure agreements, so it's probably a good idea as well that the amount isn't made public. But moving on to a slightly different thing with capital projects, at the moment 50% of the cost, there's an award, there's a scoring, 50% is down to the price. And then what's left, 8% of that is benefit to the economy, which in reality means 4% of the price is benefit to the economy, and it needs to be much, much more than that. So that, okay, it might be a little bit more expensive, but if that money stays on island, it's circulating within our economy.
Thank you, Gary Collins.
Thanks very much for the question. I think a big problem with this term is that we've put the policy in the